It's interesting that even though the world has fallen into this ghostly state, some people still struggle for it, sighed the emperor from the throne in the imperial city of Luo'an, sipping his special fragrant tea. Even though the heroes have long disappeared and the undead tribe is invincible, the outside of the royal city is still filled with painful struggles. It's really embarrassing. Who still has that courage? Asked the commander of the Knights of the Kingdom. A guy who claims to be a headhunter. A profession that is not recognized by anyone. He unites those elusive adventurers and continues the futile battle. He is the last headhunter. He will also be the only hope left on this continent. Keywords of the novel. The Last Headhunter without pop-ups, The Last Headhunter TXT Complete Collection Download, and The Last Headhunter's latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Preface Headhunter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Preface Headhunter. The price I can offer is like this. As for whether or not you should follow along, it's not a very meaningful matter. The long-haired man in front of him smiled coldly, spinning a brand new copper coin in his hand. The mahogany chair swayed gently beneath him, while the warmth and tranquility in the tavern brewed a slightly tipsy atmosphere amidst his babbling. There is clearly a bit too much alcohol. I feel a bit drowsy when I listen to him speak. This damn headhunter is so shrewd as to be an A-level commission, yet he only offers a price of 1 Ao'an coin to send beggars away. He can at least get 10 Ao'an coins, right? I randomly sorted my hair that had not been washed for 5 days. The lice and fleas died and injured countless times under my scratching. I grinned in disgust again, scattering all the incomplete bodies of insects and mosquitoes on the floor of the tavern. Hey! Adventurer! Pay attention to me. If you dirty the floor, you'll have to clean it up. The irritable tavern owner rushed over and gave me a hard slap. The excruciating pain burned on my face, biting me hard. Bastard thing, I am not angry at all. The suppressed explosion in my heart suddenly rose at this moment. Is it your turn to teach me a lesson? I am at least a beginner knight who has obtained a qualification certificate. Although I have not yet reported to the professional guild, I am still a rising star. How dare a tavern owner point fingers at me? And this is also an important occasion. I am negotiating with a headhunter. Thinking this way, the anger grew uncontrollable. My veins were bulging, and with a forceful flip of my hand, the entire table was shaken up in mid-air between lightning and fire stones. Can you speak with respect? What's bothering you with a little insect? I was really planning to smash your store today, what's going on? As I had anticipated, my questioning should have erupted with a deafening sound of the table shattering. The surging momentum and immense force were enough to scare the boss who was pretending to be X. Of course, it can also broaden the horizons of the headhunter in front of us. What kind of candidate am I, and is it worth your higher price? I was imagining this arrogantly and confidently, but suddenly realized the boss's expression remained unchanged. And the scene of the table shattering in my imagination did not happen either. At this moment, the cold voice of the long-haired man came again. Should I discuss with you about half an Ao'an coin? I saw him effortlessly supporting the table with his left hand and continuing to play with the bright Ao'an coin with his right hand. The gold coin rolled from the back of his hand to the palm of his hand, and continued to circulate between his 5 fingers. As if he knew everything, as if he could do anything. He, who was hiding deep, was trampling on my dignity in this way. When I was planning to use his energy to prove my strength, he gave me the most painful blow. I suddenly feel powerless all over. The anger dissipated, and I could only sit back in my chair dejectedly. For a long time, I couldn't say a word. Cut. Bored. The tavern owner took away my bottle of wine and my glass. Before leaving, he sneered at me with disdain. I know that the things I am proud of, or simply those used to deceive myself, are meaningless. Why do you have to look like this? When you got angry, weren't you pretty cute? The man shook his glass. The world is like this. When you think you have taken a clear path after passing the qualification exam, you always find that there are more, stronger people ahead of you. You will strive to surpass them. You will strive to imagine whether you will do better than them when you reach their level. This should be the driving force of your life, rather than constantly being decadent and longing for a bowl to discover your value and dignity. In fact, haven't you noticed? The things you uphold and acknowledge are worthless to me. So, you're only worth this half. A crisp sound. I looked up at the man and saw that the coin he was playing with was instantly broken in half. And half of it splashed out of his hand, accurately inserted like a dart at the end of the table, 3 centimeters away from my chest. His words are full of reason. But I always feel like I can't accept it. I am an excellent student. Why am I only worth this little? Are you still wondering? Haha. Take a look around you, look at those people who have been paying attention here. His windbreaker was dancing gently. I followed his voice and began to pay attention to the surroundings. They already have the commission deposit issued by this headhunter in their hands to some extent. The one with the most, although I can't see his face clearly, I can still feel the incredibly powerful aura of that strong man. Even such a strong person only has a deposit of 5 Ao'an coins. And me, my half. Perhaps, this is the current market price. Even veteran mid-level fighters, like Matt, can only be worth 5 Ao'an copper coins. Don't expect gold coins or anything else. The man raised his voice and said, all those who are willing to accompany me to hunt down the Fear Demon King tomorrow will gather here at 7 p.m. tonight. Those who are unwilling or want to break the contract, of course, it's okay. I won't withdraw the deposit. I don't care about that money either. I will fully participate in this battle. Don't worry about survival. Let's disband. The tavern is closed. After he finished speaking, people began to leave in 2s and 3s. I also know that this man issued an eviction order. But there are still some things I want to ask him. At the very least, knowing that would make me feel much more at ease. Why do you want to be a headhunter? Headhunters are clearly a cursed profession, a profession that everyone hates. The undead race has become so rampant, and many people even suspect it is related to the previous headhunters. Even though you have such strong strength, you should go. Young man, look at the people who just left and those who received the deposit. Which of them is against and hates headhunters? As for the terrifying past written in the history books of the past, it is ultimately a thing of the past. I know your question. You don't understand my growth, and of course, you don't understand how we defended the pure land of humanity during the Third Patriotic War. When I was as old as you. His words suddenly came to a halt. I noticed an old man with white hair shaking his head to signal to him. And next to the old man, there is also a priest wearing a hood. Why are the shadows around a bit strange? All right. I won't say it anymore. If we have another chance to chat face-to-face in the future, you will know everything about me. See you tonight. It's time to close. Outside the tavern, the sunshine is just right. Chester Town is still bright today. And I, holding the newly purchased silver shield, looked up at the carrier pigeon in the sky. The undead tribe should be eradicated sooner or later, right? I rubbed the coin, but I couldn't feel the gap. Youth. You really have a childlike heart. Although you have experienced so much, your mentality has always been good. Should we say that you are heartless or optimistic and positive? The pastor shook his head and smiled. This is the realm that a god should possess, Jessica. If you want to awaken a new power, you must follow his example. All right, old man. Just a few words less. Just stroll around Chester and do some commission work tonight. I don't have the heart to argue with you. What do you plan to do, the great headhunter? I can tell you really like that child. The man loosened his wrist guard and took a deep breath of the cold air. Let's talk more. However, to be honest, he reminds me of many things from the past. About Mare, about the man, everything about me. And that village, my home, Roland. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Mercenaries. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Mercenaries. To survive in this world abandoned by God, something is always needed. A top-notch giant sword, a long bow that pierces through the air with 100 steps, a skill book filled with advanced spells, a pair of sharp eyes, and a leg that can run. If you want to survive in the wild without these things, it's really a difficult task. It is necessary to ensure survival under the siege of undead monsters in order to reach further places. This is also the reason why headhunters who are not proficient in their own life-saving skills continue to die until it is difficult for anyone to inherit their mantle. Even if you can overcome extreme landforms covered by volcanic basins and collapsing canyons, you may have lost your life under the layers of siege by the undead tribe in the middle of the night, with torn and shattered bones remaining. So a successful adventurer must be both mentally agile and skillfully armed. On the other hand, I don't think you have any means to save your life. A middle-aged knight put away his long sword and looked coldly at the breathless young man. You should understand that if it weren't for me helping you, 2 or 3 flesh and blood puppets would be enough to devour you. Don't you even know not to look at them? Afterwards, the boy was startled, and only then did he recall the terror he had experienced when he first left the village. Accompanied by a chilling howl, as the cold death shockwave struck his bone marrow, his body seemed to be frozen in the frozen air. The gluttonous monster with a face but filled with meatballs wriggled and crawled on the ground, then looked at him hysterically with its already squeezed eyes. This is the first time the boy has come into contact with such a terrifying monster. His first reaction was that his mind was completely blank. Even when the flesh and blood puppet attempted to pounce and devour him, his legs couldn't even stretch apart. No. Me too. It's my first time out of the village. I didn't know there were still things like that scattered outside. For the first time out on an adventure. Alone. He put away his sword and looked into the distant sky, shrouded in dark clouds. Courage is not small. However, your recklessness and foolishness can easily become food for the undead. In this era, everyone lives only by their abilities. What about you? What are your abilities? What is your family? My family. Do you mean, my parents? The young man felt somewhat lost. From the moment he was born, he had never seen his parents before, only some seniors from the small village of Luo'an helped take care of him. At that time, the rampant undead race was not as rampant as it is now. That's right. You, parents. Your parents would definitely scold you severely if they knew you were so brainless. The knight uncle let out a light sigh. He pointed to Roland, who was filled with a hint of cooking smoke in the distance. I suggest you go back as soon as possible. If you're sensible, save your life. Everything will still be in time. No. He lit up the ancient book in his hand. I want to live a legend like him. I don't want to hide for a lifetime. Do you know Riel? I have this book of his in my house. I believe that even if I can't understand those words, I can still do it. Oh, really, Headhunter. I don't care. The knight wiped his long sword with an understandable expression on his face. Those names are too old. Countless stories from centuries ago. Even children only read them as fairy tales. You should also know that the environment in this world is no longer suitable for headhunting work. They are dead, injured, and completely extinct. They may not be seen in 100 miles radius. I don't know about your past, let alone the reasons for your decision. This has nothing to do with me. However, I can see that you have made up your mind. Perhaps I can help you complete this first step. At least, people with determination are not too poor. Having wool is a good thing, at least it can be used to make money. The piercing scream suddenly came again. The fully armed knight remained motionless and swung his sharp blade back and forth, crushing the puppet monster in 3 circles. This is the whirlpool blade, young man. There is this type of iron weapon for sale in the town of Ao'an not far from Luo'an. If you want to be a powerful headhunter, that will be the best first stop for you to learn from. Ao'an. I have seen it on the map. The boy took out the worn-out map of the world of Luo'an from the package and accurately pointed it out. It's exactly where I'm going. But actually, I don't know what I should do. Let me take you there. The cost of the journey is 50 Luo'an coins, which is very cost-effective. You don't have to choose either. Look, I'm the only one in the neighborhood who does this job. Don't worry, I'll settle the bill when I get to town. 50 Luo'an coins. The young man was not clear about the concept of this number, so he was hastily pulled onto the road. Those huge hands were like iron pliers tightly gripping the young man's arms, making it difficult to break free with immense strength. You should know. His relatively clean coarse cloth coat is only 1 Luo'an coin. The remuneration required for this escort was already unimaginable and unreasonable. So, the man in front of him did not save himself out of kindness, helping himself was just for a very simple purpose. There was a feeling of getting on the black car, and the young man looked at the knight with a bewildered expression. The driver knight clenched his helmet and walked forward without saying a word, almost holding on to a young man's stance. In order to make money. By safely escorting adventurers across the plains occupied by the undead, they earn rewards in the form of Ao'an coins. Once upon a time, these adventurers did not live so badly. But I really do, the young man smiled bitterly, but did not reveal the truth. I am really penniless. I can't afford anything. How long has it been since I came out? Everywhere are traces of incineration, withered and decaying plants, animals, and undead monsters lurking. Although they are all at a one-size-fits-all level, they are all very scary. The young man listened to the knight's introduction and said that the monsters they were facing were just the simplest kind of villain to deal with. And what truly threatens their lives is the kind of creation that resembles butchers, completely twisted with flesh and blood. They cannot be killed with ordinary swords, and can only be defeated by a team of experienced mercenaries with powerful skills. And what these adventurers do every day is nothing more than receiving a mercenary order to hunt the undead tribe in the town center, bringing evidence back and earning commissions. How much Luo'an coins can you earn by killing a butcher? 500. Of course, that's for you to kill alone. Team assists and the like all have to be paid for. You're a newbie who hasn't learned any skills, so don't think about it. What about headhunters? What is the salary of headhunters? They shouldn't be any worse, right? The young man looked eagerly at the wrinkled face of the weathered uncle under his helmet. Unexpectedly, he sighed. The headhunter has disappeared without a trace in the past 3 years. The professional guild has no consideration or regulations on the headhunter's standard of living. Who would have thought that someone would be willing to be a headhunter who has traveled mountains and rivers and his life is at risk? The biggest reason why headhunters disappear is that people nowadays no longer believe in heroes. He sneered. If heroes had existed, they would have appeared long ago. Natural disasters should not have continued, the world would have returned to peace and tranquility, and the undead should have been thoroughly purified, no longer lingering and endangering humanity. Why do we have to work day after day, doing some useless things? These poor incomes can't support our lives at all. The barrenness and madness that belong to this land will never come to an end. The twilight shone beside his armor, reflecting one dark halo after another. The youth has no words to express themselves, and can only remain silent. Passing through the flame basin, it's Ao'an town. Be careful not to scald your feet. He spoke helplessly, but suddenly his face changed drastically. There was a giant object in front of me, suddenly climbing up from the basin of flames, and the surging magma boiled into a vast ocean at that moment. Flames covered its entire body, its hands burning with blazing waves, and its head covered in flame steel armor that could not be pierced with bows and arrows. Its whole body is composed of pure fire elements, but it also has a tangible form as a support. Its huge figure stands on the ground, with a body that is 2 zhang high, pressing absolute pressure, overlooking the 2 people who are as humble as ants. Flame. Lord. Here. You go quickly. Go to Ao'an to find support. Let the mage participate in the battle. What? Me. Yeah. You. Didn't you want to be a headhunter? This is the most basic commission. Water elemental magic can cause effective damage to fire elemental magic. If you find a water-based mage, you should be able to deal with it. The world has really changed. Even the level 10 Flame Lord appears randomly in the basin. Dealing with it without even a bounty is simply meaningless. The voice of the knight appeared particularly low in the sea of fire. His howling was tired like a helpless roast. The unfamiliar knight didn't want to put in much effort to defeat this behemoth. On the contrary, he wants to retain his stamina to continue wandering in the wilderness, guarding adventurers on their journeys, and collecting commissions. The appearance of the Flame Lord was an accident. The entangled knight couldn't spare any thought to escape, which was risky. He could only hand over the burden of finding allies to this adventurer. In the hands of this somewhat comical young man who claims to be quite a headhunter. Go to the city of Ao'an, search for a mage who can defeat the Flame Lord, and bring him here. This is the first task of the youth. He packed his luggage and rushed towards the large town where the walls could already be seen, taking advantage of the monster's focus on the knight. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Elemental Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Elemental Master. The boy could hear his own breathing, mixed in the wind, messy and noisy. He, dressed in cloth, possesses unimaginable mobility, which is also the first prerequisite he possesses as a headhunter. Protective ability and physical fitness cannot be achieved simultaneously. The durability required for frontal combat is always at the cost of sacrificing physical mobility. This is also the reason why Knight Uncle cannot go to seek help on his own. And as for why he didn't choose to retreat and instead chose to fight, the young man also understood to some extent. The remuneration of a butcher is already so generous, I believe the Flame Lord is not inferior either. Its loot must be very valuable. With this thought in mind, the young man had already rushed to the city gate. Open the door. Please open the door. If you have something important to ask for help. He was panting and shouting like this. And it is said that it is humans, and the closed door naturally slowly opens. The 2 soldiers, dressed in firm and resolute armor, approached him cautiously. Hello, young man. Welcome to Ao'an town, the paradise of swordsmen. You look tired. The leader speaks. Do you need a glass of Mare's milk wine? A glass of 10 Luo'an coins is definitely worth it. No, it's not like that. I'm here to look for help. An adventurer warrior encountered a difficult monster in the wilderness and asked me to come for help. Are you looking for a helper? Is there a recruitment order? Or is there a proof letter? Or any token entrusted by the warrior? I don't have any of those things. The young man slowly stood still, took a deep breath, and tightly grasped the ancient book in his hand. So why did you come to recruit warriors? We don't welcome homeless people who have nothing to do, talk nonsense, and are alone here. Either explain your profession certificate to the guild, or show your evidence for seeking help. Otherwise, please leave quickly. His words were full of disdain and provocation, but they were also very firm and serious. This is an order issued by the kingdom, but an iron law that every gatekeeper must abide by. Wanderers and rangers are now only eligible for the lowest level of treatment. Not to mention the fragile and thin young people in front of us. But the boy's next words surprised him greatly. I'm not someone without a profession. I'm a headhunter. My expertise is in hero hunting. I'm not a wanderer. Headhunting. Headhunters, this ancient name stunned the gatekeeper in place. How long ago was that? That was the most glorious period for headhunters. There are even exclusive taverns for headhunters in Ao'an town, where the most famous heroes from the surrounding cities of Ao'an once gathered. They were chatting and collaborating to complete one difficult bounty after another. The headhunters unleashed the hero's potential to the extreme and successfully killed the Lord-level Fear Demon King during the third large-scale invasion of the undead tribe. And the Horror Demon King's horn was reclaimed by the royal city, and a reward of 10,000 loan coins was paid to the Ao'an Town Professional Guild. 10,000 Luo'an coins. The accumulated wealth of over 800 residents in the entire town is nothing more than that. With so many gold coins, it's more than enough to forge an ice frost giant sword at the blacksmith center in Tiansu province. That is the wealth that many people dream of, and it is also the reason why headhunting professionals have set out on their journey for a while. But now, with the heroes wandering around and gradually disappearing, coupled with the increasing difficulty of dealing with undead tribes, leading to the mass deaths of headhunters, this profession has completely disappeared from the territory of professional guilds. Even more so, Actor, the guild president who is proficient in 5 professions. Warrior/knight, mage, thief, priest, and hunter, has already announced that he will no longer recognize the headhunting profession. However, as we all know, Actor's former idol was the headhunter master Riel, the strongest headhunter who successfully found the ultimate wizard Anthony Ryan. Even he has been completely disappointed with headhunters, let alone others. Headhunting. That's already an unrecognized profession. The guild won't recognize your persistence and recklessness. He slowly withdrew from his wandering mind, but then left behind a cold sentence. I don't care what excuses you use to enter here, without proof or permission. Please forgive me for isolating you according to the security laws of the Kingdom of Ao'an. But I really need the help of a mage. That warrior won't last long. The young man anxiously walked forward, but was blocked outside by a cold battle axe rushing straight towards him. Command is command, sorry. Executor, close the door. The iron door began to creak and close, as if the boy's hope would dissipate together. He shouted unwillingly. Royer has already admitted me. Why don't you admit it? Why? This sentence seems to be swirling with penetrating power, accompanied by strong winds surging into the sky. The distant dark clouds still bear thunder, but they blend wildly with the flames, igniting a chaotic wall of flames on the nearby flame basin. The power of the element is exploding, and it seems to sense some powerful presence, starting to tremble violently and surging. It's a bit interesting. I finally understand what happened. That story has passed so long. Surprisingly, some people will still remember it. The ancient book in your hand does have some origins. A thunderbolt suddenly exploded, and the tiny dust that had gathered in the air began to tremble. Immediately after, accompanied by a white light that was completely unresponsive, a phantom stood towering beside the young man. You are. Who are you? The young man couldn't lift his head in front of such majesty, tightly protecting the scroll and ancient book in his hand, struggling to crawl on the ground. I have no intention of offending, but what I say is true. Please believe it. This book was written by Riel himself. Although I can't understand a single word of the ancient characters inside, I believe you are knowledgeable. I request the help of a mage. Flame Lord, it's nearby. The guard has been stunned. They knew well that they had encountered something they shouldn't have met, and quickly sealed the iron door tightly in fear. In an instant, the city's alarm began to sound, and the residents wandering on the streets, fearing the terror of the catastrophe, quickly fled to their homes. Do you know what to lose as a headhunter? The incarnation of the storm murmured like that. Do you know what Rill has lost? What has she accomplished? The pressure of the storm suddenly disappeared at that moment. The existence that couldn't see the shadow clearly turned into an old man standing beside him, flipping through the ancient book tightly held in the young man's hand. Tens of thousands of years of time. Hero's swan song. The mantle has been entrusted. The will of creation will continue to burn. I don't understand what you're saying, sir. The young man was somewhat confused. But the old man's eyes were clear and bright, and he didn't seem to be talking nonsense. You don't need to understand what I'm saying, child. It's still too early for you. Sorry for my awkwardness, I really didn't see your potential before. Now it can be considered a glimmer. The storm began to gradually subside under his slow pace. The old man lightly stroked his beard and looked thoughtful. Answer your question. If it's her suggestion, I'll trust the Headhunter again for now. I am Sari's Warhammer. The last elemental master in the world. A common mage. Elementalist. The young man looked incredulously at the white-haired old man in front of him, gradually revealing his figure. The magic wand standing in his hand was shining with a slight trembling light spot. The crown owner of the elemental master had already disappeared during the human battle against the second natural disaster. At that time, the kingdom was entangled in the power of all elemental masters, gathering enough ice curtain magic to cover the sky in an attempt to fight against endless meteorites, but in the end, the spell failed due to its exhaustion. Meteorite fire rain fell onto the stargazing platform. At that time, the owner of the crown, Alex, had his body torn apart and died on the spot along with his apprentices. His fall has caused the mana spring of the northern mountains to dry up. And now, this suddenly appearing elder actually claims to be an elemental master. It's impossible. But that doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter who it is. As long as you can help. The young man quickly stood up and picked up the sword that had fallen to the ground, placing it in the scabbard. The cold wind had carved countless flesh and blood wounds on his body, but he didn't care. If you are an element master, then we just need you now. He spoke firmly like this. Elder, I need your help. Bounty, 40% of the items dropped by the monster. If it's not enough, we can discuss further. Money is just a false thing. No problem, Headhunter, please listen carefully. The old man smiled and walked slowly forward under the guidance of the young man. The cycle of creation has finally begun to rotate again at this moment. And Luo'an's guidance, the souls of countless heroes, will forge a poignant epic on the trajectory of fate. How do you view it? I didn't tell him any secrets about Rill. There are so many stories about what happened before. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Legend. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Legend. In the former kingdom of Ao'an, there were many minstrels. They are enthusiastic about collecting legends and then adapting them into poems to sing in the prosperous streets and alleys, in order to win 1 or 2 inconspicuous Luo'an coins from the bounties. They are a group of destitute people who cannot even maintain basic living security. Their devout pilgrimage every day, their thirst and extravagance for heroes, in the most prosperous era of that kingdom, were just insignificant beliefs. A life of extravagance does not require his touching poems to adorn it at all. A peaceful and happy time seems more suitable for light and wine, as well as singing and dancing. 763 years ago, before the first natural disaster struck, this was undoubtedly everyone's idea. The Warhammer family, on the other hand, rose to fame as a wandering bard family. Serial Warhammer's grandfather, Murad Warhammer, was an extremely outstanding minstrel. He relied on his steadfast recitation of the mages who sacrificed themselves in the first natural disaster day after day, earning enough wealth to rival the royal family. It was precisely because of this that the Warhammer family was incorporated into the royal family and became imperial courtiers. It was not until the birth of Serial Warhammer, who carried the power, that the legacy of the bard was completely shattered. His natural affinity for elements and energy led him to pick up his wand and become a wizard passionate about hunting and fighting. The name carries a warhammer, the family is a singer, but the profession is a mage. This child was entangled in countless contradictions, but he embarked on his journey of cultivation alone. People thought he was missing, and the glory of the Warhammer family gradually disappeared due to the recovery and prosperity of the human kingdom after the disaster. In the words of King Terry O, who was exempt from the privileges of the Warhammer family at that time, it was, "When Luo'an no longer needs heroes, he no longer needs those who pursue them." From this perspective, perhaps Serial's choice of self-wandering is a visionary and correct one. However, more than 100 years later, when the second natural disaster foreshadowed and people began to seek guidance from heroes and legends, all the bards had already disappeared. So, at that time, the profession with the same functionality, headhunting, became the best alternative in the hearts of the people. And Ro'er, the once inconspicuous wandering masked person, began her legend. But who would have thought that the collection of poems and legends recorded by Riel's predecessor was actually a collection written by Murad Warhammer? What she is pursuing is also the miracle that the long-deceased old man has devoted his whole life to pursuing. Legendary hero. A hero capable of saving the world. The only surviving elemental master in the world was found by Riel and brought to the ruins of the wizard's temple. No one has recorded such a thing. Just because they have no way of knowing. The old man recalled the story, but shook his head in frustration. He really wants to meet this old friend and talk about the gains he has gained from his years of sneaking cultivation in the Holy Land, as well as the glorious past of his grandfather. But now he is separated by heaven and earth. Even the founder of the sorcerer, Luo'an, has been buried with this world full of wounds and holes. He remembers that his first book, Fireball Technique as a New Magician, was written by Ryan. He couldn't describe the excitement of igniting sparks for the first time and crushing the trial wooden stake. At that time, he must have been unable to break free from his fate with the elements. And now, the only heir of the Warhammer family. Will anyone still remember? The old man doesn't want to think too much anymore. He followed the footsteps of the young man, turning into a strong wind and rushing forward. And not far away, the expanding heat wave had already turned into a solid entity in the scorching air, and small lava flames were steaming hot, starting to spread out on the road in front of us. The figure of the warrior uncle became clear and visible. His armor was dyed purple-black by flames, and the torn cracks continued to expand in the agony of the flames. The Flame Lord was holding a blazing sword in his hand, fiercely striking the shield of the warrior's deadly defense. There it is. That monster. The detestable creature cannot be solved by me or him. That's also why we need a mage. Please, old man, kill it quickly. The young man wiped away the sweat from his head and gasped for breath as he spoke. Flame Lord, an elemental creation entirely generated by fire elements. It is the most resilient and aggressive monster among the 5 elements of fire, ice, electricity, light, and darkness. If it's just a beginner form, ordinary ice cone spells can be eliminated. But against the Lord's form, only by indiscriminately bombarding his body without armor with an ice storm can it possibly dissipate. In a sense, it's really strange that this kind of guy is much more difficult to deal with than the undead tribe, appearing in such a wilderness. I always feel like something bad will happen. And this disaster is extending in the direction of deterioration. But, Serial smiled slightly. Perhaps this is precisely the meaning behind the existence of heroes. Young man, let me show you what the ultimate element is. The so-called element is an energy form that does not rely on any substance. It is born in heaven and earth, burning in every corner of the world with an extremely unstable core. Perhaps you cannot hear the call of the element, but at this moment, I can feel their intense shouting and calling. I can hear water currents and surges, I can hear heat waves and ice winds. They are my life, and it is the ultimate realm that accompanies the continuous operation of this world. The essence of life is the element. And the element guides humanity to find the ultimate form of life. Watch carefully. Serial's wand burst out with a strong 5-colored light, and the elements of the 5 forms began to condense and roll on his wand, until a huge hollow colorful vortex formed in his palm. Immediately after, he shouted an inexplicable ancient spell and struck the ground with his wand. The earth suddenly began to shake, thunder echoed in the sky, and a beam of light from the sky stirred up dust, while the heat waves of the flame basin began to surge wildly. Isha Zuadola. Suddenly, the flame basin began to crack, and a terrifying black shadow rising from the sky freed itself from its constraints and began to scream incessantly. And when the flame energy converged on it like a storm, the boy had just seen it clearly. This is more than 10 times the size of the Flame Lord, the ultimate elemental creation. Level 10 Elemental Summoning. Flame Whisperer, Zaire. The whole body was completely covered by heat waves, emitting an extremely strong sense of pain as if being burned. The land beneath my feet began to split and shatter due to the water being taken away, and the shaking sensation of heaven and earth seemed like a calamity approaching. Is this legendary magic? Such pressure, the legendary Flame Whisperer, born here. And the ultimate elemental monster, which had already surpassed the town of Ao'an by a long distance, could be considered a temporary relaxation. It laughed wildly and grabbed the Flame Lord with its fire claw, starting to chew with its huge mouth. The flame had no resistance and could only turn into a lamb to be slaughtered in the face of such strong control. It struggled frantically in the midst of painful cries, and in the end, it was completely devoured. That is the source of all flame spells. Once, Ryan found the mystical summoning left by the great sages and mages from ancient ruins on the northern map of the world. In that realm, Luo'an encountered 5 trials to obtain the true transmission of elements, namely fire, ice, electricity, light, and darkness. In the flame trial, what Ryan encountered was the ultimate monster known as the Flame Whisperer. And now, it has been successfully summoned by Serial. What kind of strength is this? What kind of elemental affinity is it? Before the young man could think about his movements, the elemental master's wand gently shook in his hand. The massive elemental creation, accompanied by a wave of phantom shaking, gradually lost its substance and returned to the side of the wand, lingering and disappearing. He is truly a hero. That legendary magician, the last surviving elemental master in the world. The shock in my heart is indescribable. He trembled his lips and fell silent for a moment. Royer has seen a lot more of the world than you have. Young man, you still have a long way to go. If you want to become such a headhunter, you must deal with all kinds of heroes. I will be the first senior you meet, but definitely not the last. Serial spoke with great care. In that moment, he glimpsed countless emotions from the boy's eyes. Expectation, disbelief, hope, and the deepest and most passionate plea. Senior, why do you possess such powerful power? I know what you're asking. As a newcomer, he has also asked the same question. However, you should know that this world is vast, filled with chaos and death that you can't even imagine. You haven't even been to the Dark Land, so naturally you won't know which more exaggerated undead monsters still exist in the world, and the dangers that you must go through various challenges and trials to survive. These are all the paths you must go through to grow. If you believe in the legend of Riel, then all those hardships are just a negligible part of your struggle. Serial said this, but he saw the soldier bumping towards him from a distance. His insightful eyes swept over, but he couldn't see any ripples. This world needs heroes, and it also needs you, kid. Where are you going? Senior. Please. Wait for me. Go where I should go. And sooner or later, we will see each other again. Before that, live well. His form transformed into a gust of wind, and he suddenly disappeared without a trace. The bounty hasn't been paid yet. The boy let out a light sigh and was about to turn around when he suddenly realized that something was on his hand. That is a money bag. There are 50 Luo'an coins inside. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Middle Nightmare. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Middle Nightmare. Before the young man could recover from his shock, the warrior uncle had already rushed to his side. His armor trampled on the cracked ground, stirring up a wave of flying dust. That wizard, where is the person? Young man, I'm asking you, where's that wizard? Why is he missing? Who the hell is he? The young man remained silent. He doesn't know how to answer this senior's question. Of course, he can proudly say that his inexperienced headhunter effortlessly recruited top mages. Serial Warhammer, who had advanced to elemental form, in order to win a prestigious reputation. But what the old man hoped for was not his own reincarnation in the world, right? He has said about trials, and he has also said that if you want to follow in Royer's footsteps, there will definitely not be so many futures that come naturally. If one always relies on the assistance of others for success, then one will eventually be just a useless body. Becoming cunning, lazy, and worldly, the young man never wants to bear such a result. If one can solve things and grow through suffering, then everything is just a blessing. So, after thinking for a long time, the young man just casually uttered this sentence. Just an ordinary mage who doesn't want to leave a name. Stop talking. Ordinary mage. Your joke is worse than street thugs' limericks. The soldier's concealment of the youth was almost angry. Don't think I don't know what the monster that devours the Flame Lord is. That's the Flame Whisperer. A level 10 elemental creature, only by practicing the fire element summoning spell to the highest level and cooperating with the long-lost elemental soul magic book, can I successfully comprehend the entire kingdom of Ao'an. Perhaps only in the royal family can I find qualified mages to learn. Let alone master. And the old man next to you just now easily summoned him. This is a discovery that is enough to shock the entire continent of Luo'an. More likely, he is the biological disciple of Lien, perhaps. Such an ultimate magical form, master of elements. Or even a great mage. No, I dare not think at all. Great mage, what is that? The great mage is the ultimate form of elemental master and the strongest elemental master who comprehends elements to the ultimate realm. I never imagined that your first recruitment as a headhunter would be a legendary hero. Uncontrollable excitement and joy were visible on his face. He excitedly patted the young man's shoulder, his disdain gradually replaced by a wave of respect and appreciation. And the young man remembered his initial indifferent sigh, people no longer believe in heroes, and suddenly felt a sigh of relief. Actually, no matter who, they all have expectations for heroes. As the eternal night approaches, in every minute and second of the lifeless silence, people will pray for someone to change this situation and influence the seemingly one-sided invasion of despair. That person is a hero. With him, there is no need to be afraid of anything. Indeed, the dream of the youth is to give hope to these still struggling sparks. But when the boy witnessed Serial's carefree and magnanimous departure after completing the task, he understood again, heroes also have their own choices. He will only appear when needed. And he will also leave when he is not needed. That's also why there are always many unnamed legends. I was presumptuous before, young man. I apologize to you. Indeed, I failed to discover your potential. You possess admirable courage, and ability. People who can get along with heroes are by no means ordinary people. His expression became serious, and he suddenly straightened his waist and looked ahead. He drew out his long sword and placed it straight in front of him. Salute to you, esteemed headhunter. He bent down and bowed to the young man at a 90-degree angle in standard aristocratic etiquette. And the distant thunderstorms gradually disappeared, revealing a faint sunset from the end of the black sky. This scene is truly unforgettable for the youth. The young man did not tell him the true identity of Master Baihu, but he almost certainly told the knight that the hero was only interested and came to help, not because he had any special talent. As a recent headhunter, he does not have the ability to persuade heroes to serve him. And the uncle finally had no way to deal with him, even though he really wanted to believe that the boy in front of him was the reincarnation of Riel. However, due to the boy's excessive humility, he could only half believe and half doubt the question and leave it behind. They teamed up and walked towards Ao'an town. At this moment, the boy realized that the winding forest path in the distance was nearly 10 miles away. And perhaps it was with the help of Serial that the previous rapid sprint was as fast as lightning. What's going on in this world? The young man pondered for a long time before gently uttering such a sentence. The green forest in front of me was not stained with dead ash, but had nothing to do with the kind of decay and withering I had seen before. As you can see, the forest near Ao'an town has been lush for 10 years. The citizens have always felt that there are gods protecting this land. After all, the invincible fear demon King Artoris died under this city wall. His body turned into nutrients and restored the vitality of all animals and plants within a radius of 30 miles. Since then, the ecological environment of Ao'an town has always been good, which must be related to the heroes who participated in that great war. And you? Did you participate in that epic battle? Me. At that time, I was still very weak, but of course, that doesn't mean I'm too strong now. The knight began to reminisce with a bitter smile. That's the story of me when I first joined a professional guild, underwent trials, obtained qualification certificates, and swore to become a mercenary. The equipment allocated by the guild was very poor because as a junior knight, I had not yet mastered skills like Divine Shield that could protect my teammates. Without a team, I could only hunt undead tribes alone. The efficiency was very low, and sometimes I couldn't even complete a mercenary order in a day. So you want someone like me to participate in such an epic war, it's nothing more than a dream. What's even more shameful is that I don't participate in the battle, and I often take some equipment or Luo'an coins from the relics of those victims to satisfy my extravagant desire to climb up the wealth and combat power class. I also want to become a hero. However, I always hope to reach that level through shortcuts. Speaking of which, it's really something I regret. But you saved me from leaving the village just now. I almost got skinned alive by the flesh and blood puppet. But I was just atoning for my cowardice and greed. Growth always comes at a cost. The ancestor of cavalry, Gracius, who integrated both warrior and knight professions, was the ultimate guide of the realm. His sacrifice to himself brought the light of revival, and in the battle of defending the royal city, he resurrected tens of thousands of warriors. In exchange, his soul dissipated without a trace and drifted towards the unknown distance. This is Gracious' realization, the price he understands. And as his loyal follower, I can't do anything at all. Do you still think I am worthy of admiration so far? The uncle took off his helmet, but his gaze was blurred as he looked at the tightly closed door of Ao'an town. He remembers the bloody catastrophe that happened here, as well as his own helplessness and weakness. Teenagers cannot describe their emotions in words. In this chaotic era, there are too many people of all kinds. At the end of the day, no one can know what the happy and smiling people around them are hiding in their hearts, and what unknown memories they all hide. Calculation, intrigue, and all these elements and processes may be things he must go through in the future. Here we are. This may be your legendary first stop. A gentle breeze rises. The uncle's weathered face was adorned with scars, and after clearing his throat, he shook out such a sentence. Luo'an Kingdom Professional Guild Certification, Intermediate Knight, Mare. Apply to enter the city. So the previously tightly closed door quickly opened. The two guards who had previously closed the door to the boy walked forward with a smile of apology. Mr. Mare, and this attendant. Welcome to Ao'an City. Do you need a glass of Mare's milk wine? Free. Absolutely free. We guarantee that we won't charge you a penny. If you take a look at this week's bounty order. He's not a follower. Mare handed the helmet to the nodding and bowing guard executive, smiling as he looked at the young man with a calm expression. He is a glorious headhunter. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Ao'an Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Ao'an Town. You should know what those two words mean, sir. To be honest, there are no headhunters in this world anymore. The guard's expression suddenly became indifferent and calm. The truly skilled headhunters have all died in the ravages of the undead race time and time again, and Actor no longer recognizes headhunters as one of his professions. With such wisdom and decisiveness, you should also understand that headhunters will never rise again. And what you should be wary of are those hypocritical villains who try to use headhunting as a gimmick to get help and support. They use so-called noble determination as an excuse, but in reality, their goal is to deceive the few kind-hearted and supportive people in this world. Please also provide a Ming Jian. He bowed slightly. While he was making such a passionate statement, a group of onlookers had already gathered around him. Mare and the boy couldn't see their expressions clearly, nor could they discern their diverse words, but only one thing was particularly clear. Everyone in this town has no liking or even disgust towards headhunters. Thorough disappointment, complete contempt, and complete loss of trust. What permeates people's hearts is nothing more than such dark and oppressive emotions. The young man couldn't help but feel fearful. Enough, Misty. As the executive of this city, every word and action you take will affect the entire city. Pay attention to your identity. Don't put your personal stance and grievances in public. Mare remained unmoved. He has already endured much more severe and malicious hatred than this. No matter what profession he is an adventurer recognized by Mare. According to the guild rules, any adventurer who has reached a mid-level profession can team up with any adventurer. You have no right to interfere. So that's exactly what I said. He's your attendant, sir. Of course, if you have that right, please feel free to do so. However, even if you forget the past shame, this city will not forget it. For the safety, stability, and prosperity of this city, some necessary measures must be taken. And we will see each other again. Confused and sneered, but turned around and left. He knew he couldn't stop Mare and the young man at all, because the sacred law of the professional guild was above, which was absolutely unshakable. However, as the guardian of this city and the executive with the highest power in the city, he has a way to deal with such a rough guy. Headhunters can no longer appear. Absolutely, it can't appear again. They have caused too many deaths. On his thin and cold face, a few drops of cold sweat quietly flowed down. With the departure of the executive, the crowd watching the excitement naturally dispersed like birds and beasts. At this moment, the boy finally freed himself from the fear of being surrounded by gloomy gaze. Malicious. This is the first time a teenager has endured such great malice and resistance. This is like a mountain weighing heavily on his heart. It turns out that adventure and unknown hardships are not the most terrifying, but the most agonizing are the hatred and lack of understanding from humanity. This is also the reason why headhunters no longer appear in the world. No one is willing to live with discrimination and contempt. The reason behind this, the reason why headhunters were boycotted or even expelled, is much more painful than the extremely low survival rate. It's strange, isn't it, young man? You can't understand the reason for their attitude. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. I've been hiding a lot of things you don't know about the past. I'll tell you slowly. Now, let's take a look together. Mare lightly patted his shoulder and pulled him into the town. The unique Lus of Tiansu province on the east side of the mainland is particularly comfortable to step on. The vast town is dotted with various buildings built with Luo'an stones. Blacksmith shops, stables, shops, auction houses, and training grounds are arranged in a staggered manner. Looking up at the sky, it is protected by a magical shield surrounded by a canopy, while the surrounding area is used as a watchtower by a circular ladder. The town is filled with the sounds of horses and various chaotic sales and shouts, and the twisted and stretching streets appear very chaotic. In the store, skill books, potions, treasure maps, and handicrafts are displayed in scales. Some specialty products also produce special element bottles that can be used for magic cultivation, or special thief gloves and other extraordinary items. Auction houses are not to mention gathering places for rare treasures. Therefore, these places are always crowded with adventurers and mercenaries seeking to improve their skills. They each have different professions and are constantly striving to improve themselves. Speaking of the Luo'an stones that make up these buildings, they are a type of ore whose softness and hardness can be adjusted by flame roasting or extreme ice. With different softness, the degree of transparency also varies. Its extensibility is extremely strong and its absorption is also high. Most of the time, after building the base, mages can use flame magic to slightly impact it, which is enough to complete its prototype. After shaping, if extreme temperature stimulation is not applied, it can maintain stability for hundreds of years. In ancient times, humans have always referred to it as the stone bestowed by heaven. But this also brings some hidden dangers. When natural disasters occur, under the influence of extreme weather, the form of the Luo'an stone begins to become unstable. Without the help of mages, ordinary architects cannot guarantee that its temperature is suitable, leading to the collapse of the Luo'an stone and buildings. That's also why natural disasters have a strong destructive power on human cities. The gem bestowed by heaven also brings destruction to humanity. Perhaps this itself is a curse. Are there really some gods who dominate the fate of humanity living above the sky? This has always been a question that teenagers have been wanting to know. Strange, why doesn't there be a house? Where has the stone house in our village that emits cooking smoke gone? The young man scanned around, but apart from various military facilities emitting flames, sword lights, and magical auras, he could not see any trace of life. There's no such thing here. Everyone who lives on guard has always lived in their respective busy places. Ao'an town is a common place for mercenaries in the eastern continent of Luo'an. Instead of spending the hard work of digging or buying Luo'an stones to build houses, it's better to work harder for business and build blacksmith shops or other places to make a living. Guests can start crafting weapons in a timely manner when needed, earn more Luo'an coins, and then move into the capital. Mare sighed. This is the ultimate goal of the world's subjects. It's not about eliminating the undead anymore. It's about working hard to reach the current King Kali-O and enjoy the highest level of peace. But what about food? There's not even a farm here, where's the food to eat? What do they rely on to feed themselves? Of course, it's through buying. There are adventurers' playgrounds like Tiansu Province, Fighter's Paradise, and of course, there are also agricultural-rich places like Tianmao Province. Almost all the food in the eastern continent is purchased from there and transported over. Since the second natural disaster, there has been a miraculous rise there. There must be a reason for this, maybe there are some important figures hidden there. The boy followed Mare up to the watchtower made of Luo'an redwood, which hung in a circular shape above the city wall. At this moment, the scenery within a radius of 100 miles was fully visible. The boy can even see his hometown not far away. Lorraine. And more importantly, there are countless small villages and towns outside Ao'an City, as well as densely populated undead monsters. What we have climbed onto is the backbone of this city. Countless mercenaries stand here, overlooking the surroundings, using their eagle eyes to determine the location of their hunting targets, and earning the Luo'an coins for livelihood. This is a daily cycle of endless campaigns. Mare's gaze was reflected by the dark gray sky. Will there be hope? Will there be an end to this struggle someday? It is because everyone has lost this hope that they can no longer trust the Headhunter. Young man, I believe in your uniqueness. Although I still don't know your name, your family, and your identity, I believe that the former hero Royer will not disappoint anyone, and will not be like the story does. What story? His hands were trembling. His lips were chattering. He remembered something, but immediately let out a deep sigh. In the future, I will tell you. Now, go to a professional guild. Perhaps you don't need to lead the way anymore. A cold voice suddenly appeared. A group of masked black-clothed people have stood behind them at some point. Thieves. Mare seemed to realize something in an instant. Listen to me explain, Dark Nightmakers. It's not what you imagined. Mare, you are suspected of abusing your job agency privileges. Please accept an investigation from the president of the local professional guild. As a teenager, you are suspected of entering the city without permission, so please go to the professional guild for investigation. This way, please. There is no hesitation in the leader's words. He made way and signaled for the boy and Mare to quickly descend the stairs by climbing the ladder. The young man recalled the mixed expressions of anger, hatred, ridicule, contempt, and malice when the executor left in a daze, and felt a chill in his heart. He suddenly understood what had happened and squinted his eyes, gazing into the distance at the rolling thunder. That little bit of sunset was gradually consumed by time. The boy heard a low murmur from behind. Headhunter. Welcome to Ao'an town. The capital of death does not welcome headhunters the most. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Professional Guilds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Professional Guilds, the capital of death. Headhunters are least welcomed. Hey, Nash. Let's just stop joking. I've never heard of such titles and policies before. Mare looked shocked. He broke free from constraints and ran to the front of the masked leader, intending to explain something. Ao'an has always been friendly to adventurers from the outside world, isn't it? I brought this young man here just to go to the professional guild for file authentication and request a passage permit. Do you understand? Ao'an is just a transit station. It won't endanger anyone, nor will it make anyone unhappy. You don't need to be so ostentatious about such an exaggerated threat. But Nashio only looked at him coldly, staring at him coldly all the time, even unwilling to say a word in response. In his eyes, the so-called mid-level knights were simply subjects who were subservient to the unquestionable absolute power of professional guilds. He is unable to challenge the eyes of the world, let alone influence the judgment of professional guilds. It would be good if he could protect himself alone, but why did he have the courage to worry about that inexperienced little boy? Is he worth it? What is the need for a headhunter who has disappointed everyone's expectations? There is no need to dwell on it anymore, and there is no need to explain. More and more adventurers and spectators have gathered around, so it is best to solve this matter secretly. Sneaking smoke. Nashio gently crushed a scroll. The energy from the spell began to vibrate in the air, and the purple-gray gas brewed and rose, gradually expanding and spreading around like fireworks, quickly enveloping the entire group. This chaotic atmosphere stirred in the wind and gradually seeped into the body. Their bodies unexpectedly became transparent and unpredictable in rapid and unstable changes. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the thief group carried the two of them and rushed towards the bottom of the ladder. The wind in the air carried smoke and dust, howling in the ears of the young man. He is fiercely protecting his package. There is his most precious treasure on the surface. Wandering aimlessly, without any freedom, the lowly wanderer has no self-esteem. Is this a blessing for headhunters? Is it the tempering I must go through to become an excellent headhunter? My first stop was also too unfriendly to me. Thinking this way, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. In the dark and gloomy gust of wind, he couldn't see Marle's gaze at all. The dazed sense of loss is scattered in my heart. At the same time, professional guilds. This is the most luxurious building in the entire town of Ao'an. The building material used is not ordinary Luo'an stone, but fission-colored stone, constructed from pure elemental energy. It is scattered in various corners of the Luo'an continent, but the number of veins is extremely rare and difficult to refine. Generally, there is not even a single piece available in the market, and its limited quantity is only supplied to the royal family, wealthy families, and finally professional guilds. In order to ensure the sanctity of the five-colored stone fission, the kingdom even issued specific laws requiring residents and all adventurers to absolutely not hide the five-colored stone privately. If discovered, there will be only one outcome. Drive out, feed undead monsters, and do not allow anyone to assist. But humans possess the original sin of greed. The meaning of the existence of thieves is to plunder those priceless treasures for their own possession, so they cannot ignore the idea of fission-colored stones. Of course, you would say, I definitely can't hand over that treasure. If you make such a decisive announcement, then I'm sorry. Your head on the neck is uncertain about which day it will land. So, out of a thirst for that magical stone, even the Ao royal family, which symbolizes the highest will of the country, has been looted by thieves. And the legendary assassin who assassinated several iron guards and entered the palace. No one knows his name to this day. To be precise, everyone who knew him at all had completely disappeared. Not even a corpse, as if disappearing from the mortal world out of thin air. Even if a magical messenger is released to search day and night, it is just a waste of effort. Such ultimate assassins, invincible beings lurking in the shadows. That is the pride of all assassins, the hero of all thieves. Even though his talent has never been used in the right direction, his unrestrained evil and freedom are just the symbol of cunning revered by thieves. For high-level assassins and Master Rick, the same applies. At this moment, he is standing on the priceless fission steps at the entrance of the professional guild. The elemental energy contained in the five-colored stones can cause certain levels of distortion and deformation in the surrounding space, so even standing on steps feels like being on a tumultuous sea. And miraculously, even with that rolling sensation, it can still maintain balance extremely stably. Rick naturally admired this wonderful experience to himself. He has grown old and gone through nearly 60 years of growth and refinement before transitioning from a rusty thief to a high-ranking assassin recognized and certified by the royal family. Finally, he has the qualification to become the vice president of a professional guild in the important town of Chu province on this day of coming to Ao'an. Too many sarcastic remarks, too many close encounters, too many bloodshed and killings. Accustomed to blood, revenge, and death, he already has a calm and indifferent attitude towards many things that happen in the world. This time it was the same. When he heard of Ru'aer's foolish imitator, a young man who claimed to be a headhunter with the help of Mare broke into the town of Ao'an, his expression was also equally calm. Even though the members of the surrounding House of Representatives chattered incessantly, years of experience made Rick understand that this was nothing more than a clown scam. Mare is also quite a seasoned warhorse. How could you be fooled like that? Rick was very puzzled and urgently wanted to know the reason. So, after dispelling the anger-filled confusion that came to report, he ordered his direct subordinates, led by the mid-level thief Nashio who had not yet understood the assassin's realm, the Shadow Guard, to search for the whereabouts of the two and quickly bring them back. He needs to personally interrogate the two people and clarify the purpose of their reckless journey. He knew that Mare must have been kind-hearted in supporting that young man, but such kindness in this era would only add to his weakness and humiliation. You don't understand, Mare. After experiencing so many past experiences, you will not still retain so much kindness. Moreover, you are not such a good person yourself. Don't think I don't know why you're wandering on the narrow path near Gran. He held a cane in his hand and sat on the central judgment stand in the vast council hall. The top surrounded by rubies is covered with refined iron, and above it is a short, blood-colored knife. Legend has it that the former leaders of professional guilds used this blood-colored short sword to rule out all rebels who violated dogma and orders, and all disobedient criminals who intended to harm human power. And the blood accumulated by the short knife, the bloody smell spreading from the tip of the knife, has long been the most primitive impulse of killing that assassins cannot forget. People call it the blood judgment, which is the ultimate judgment in Ao'an town that transcends the deterrent power of the court and the constraints of the executor. A series of poor people whose lives were cut off by this knife kept flashing through Rick's mind, and he felt a sigh in his heart. How long does it take for a person to grow from this wasteland? How short does it take to easily lose one's life? But no matter what, rules are always rules. No one can avoid a predetermined rule. If the young man's answer is not satisfactory enough, this evil short sword will devour his soul. What choice would you make? Rick calmed his mood and saw a trail of smoke and dust mixed with soil rushing up the steps from the entrance. At this moment, the 5 colored stones began to emit a dazzling light, and the hidden effect completely disappeared. The figures of the 8 suddenly appeared completely. The shadow guards surrounded the 2 criminals and stopped in the center of the council hall. The chaotic trampling sound on the blue wood floor gradually faded from my ears. Kneel. 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 The 6 thieves took a step back one by one, murmuring. The magical command voice flooded into the boy's mind, shocking his heart. The long-robed old man standing in front of me doesn't know where he came from. He restrained all his breath, as gentle and calm as the old man playing Luo'an chess on the street he met when he was a child. Although the blood knife around him, which was immediately unknown, was terrifying, it was not enough to pose an extremely terrifying threat. At least, the mysterious person in front of me gave me a chance to explain. The young man was secretly afraid in his heart. What worries him the most is not such a confrontation, but the other party's direct sentencing of the crime. In that case, he really won't have a chance to turn over again. Reason is an essential element for humanity to seek resonance. I believe he is also a sufficiently sober rationalist. Kneel. 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 On the contrary, Mare couldn't bear it anymore. She bent down and knelt on the ground with one knee, gently pressing against her arm. His silver armor still bears baked marks, which are a reproduction of his battle memories. The Flame Lord and his fierce battle were still the last to be saved, how could Mare forget? If the boy had confessed the name of the hero earlier, wouldn't it be like this? All right. No need to nag anymore. I'm tired of listening. Rick slowly stood up from the glass bench on the judgment bench. His gaze lightly swept over Mare and the boy, but he began to pace slowly. The creaking and shaking sound of cloth shoes trampling on the floor scattered in the air. He waved his hand to let the shadow guard retreat, and immediately began his trial. Mare, and the unknown boy. I'm Rick, an assassin. I have experienced 2 patriotic wars, 3 large-scale undead hunts, and the ultimate counterattack against the Horror King. I have been to the dark regions of northwest Luo'an and traveled 50% of the world's territory. I have assassinated hundreds of traitors who intended to rebel against the Empire and establish the Free Alliance. I have made great contributions to the royal family, and I have the highest level of decision-making power in the town of Ao'an. So, both of you. What you are currently experiencing is an evaluation from a professional guild, as well as a trial from a professional guild. If you did not pass, I'm sorry. He let out a soft sigh and pointed to the bloody verdict that seemed to emit a sneer from Jia. You will die. Traitor. Madman. Or a scammer. Headhunter, uncover your true identity. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Interrogation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Interrogation. I'm asking you. When did you 2 get together? Rick spoke calmly, with no ripples on his face. But his eyes always make people feel a magical power that runs through their hearts. Anyone can answer. I can definitely tell if you're lying, from your eyes. So just go ahead and talk. I'll do it. Mare took the initiative to take on such responsibility. Even his so-called maturity and gentleness have long been untenable in the eyes of the youth. I found this young man outside the village of Luo'an. He was completely unprepared for the danger from the outside world, and even had no idea how to deal with flesh and blood creatures. When he was lost in consciousness, he almost got swallowed up by them. It was me who saved him. After rescuing him, I had a conversation with him. His ambition surprised me. In today's era, there is someone who wants to become a headhunter. He is the lowest level of being despised and despised, a weak person with no self-protection ability. But his expression is so firm, so I didn't say much, I can only show enough respect. This is illogical, Mare. First of all, I don't think you're so kind-hearted as to help a lonely young traveler. You've never been such a kind person, whether in the past or in the future. Rick coldly interrupted Mare. Secondly, you should know that professional guilds have already expelled headhunters, and now skill bookstores and training colleges have completely taken down all headhunting-related content. How could such a seemingly innocent young man set such a grand ambition to pursue a career that is fundamentally illusory? To accomplish something that is completely denied by everyone. If he were you, would you make such a choice? I suggest you speak the truth. Otherwise, I have every reason to suspect that you have engaged in extremely unethical instigation, even brainwashing, towards this young man. Mind control has always been a forbidden technique. You know the consequences of using forbidden techniques better than anyone else. What is the forbidden technique? How can a war horse be associated with that kind of spiritual spell? It sounds like a priest's skill. Unable to bear the young man to think too much, Mare's expression suddenly began to become anxious. He furrowed his brows nervously, as if he had a natural fear of the word forbidden. He tried to explain something, but the boy always couldn't hear his words clearly. The air filled with noise cannot be peaceful at any moment. It feels a bit strange when I think about it. Why would the young man trust this knight unconditionally? Why would the young man wholeheartedly search for help for the knight? What is the intention of this task-like instruction? The young man suddenly realized that everything he had learned so far was actually an indoctrination of the concept of Mare, and he had not actually received any substantial content. Ideas, or understanding of the world are not discovered and experienced by teenagers themselves. It was like a big dream, and the young man woke up from his decadence. His gaze towards Mare was now filled with disappointment and fear. Young man. You have been deceived. Mare's enthusiasm for you is nothing more than a kind of exploitation towards you. Rick shook his head helplessly, but let out a deep sigh. Poor little one. No, it's not like that. Let me explain. The knight, disregarding dignity and etiquette, suddenly stood up. I haven't brainwashed, and I can't brainwash either. I just told the boy the truth about everything in the world. The reason why he wants to become a headhunter is because he has an ancient book written by the headhunter master Riel himself in ancient human language. That book is the most important, it is his enlightenment. So I also respect him very much, I think he is a malleable talent. Ro'er transferred the headhunter's secret to a furry kid. An adventurer who is just starting out and doesn't have any skills to master. No matter how long he has disappeared, what about the authenticity of the ancient book? Even if he really chooses the successor chosen by Ro'er, what can he do? Or what does it have to do with you? If you help or don't help him, what will change? I really understand what kind of person you are, March. In that great war, you shrank back and forth. You hid in the dark, watching your fellow warriors form a wall and fight to death, and then you only touched the body. In my eyes, you are a person who only values profit. You must have fabricated a bunch of lies. You were just trying to deceive this young man and get something from him, right? Step-by-step pressure, step-by-step pressure. Rick's ferocity were fully reflected at this moment. The storm of his words is like a poison that pierces the bones of the heart, like 1,000 insect bites that pierce the heart of a young man. That is the expression of hatred, that is anger, pain, distortion of distrust, selfishness in pursuit of interests, fear of doubt, and vulnerability to weakness. At first glance, even if Mare and he were already close friends, even if they witnessed the grandeur of Samuel Warhammer summoning the Flame Whisperer together, even if they understood each other and had a heart-to-heart relationship along the way, it was still an elusive thing, built on flashy shadows, a paper-like friendship. Just met, what kind of friendship are we talking about? What do you think? Ao'an town is my best first stop. At that time, I had already started planning to calculate for myself. The young man took a deep breath, but slowly spoke up. Although he didn't want to hear Mare's nonsense anymore, he also didn't want to hear Rick's real provocations anymore. Mare is right. He saved me, and my long-standing wish is indeed to become a headhunter. This is a persistent belief I have had since I was young. I must follow that hero's footsteps, gather heroes as much as possible, and save humanity from fire and water. He may have lied countless times, but my experience is something real. I have never had parents since I was young, and I don't even have a name. If there is anything left of me, it is my ambition. What I am pursuing is the footsteps of heroes, and I have never doubted the correctness of my choices. If you all lose the belief in heroes, then I will inherit it until death. It's truly admirable courage, young man. Even though I was trying to uncover the truth like that, your calmness remains so clear. However, I think you still need something concrete to convince me. This book alone is not enough. Rick raised the ancient book in his hand. The young man fixed his gaze and saw that it was an exact replica of the book signed by Luo'an in his package. Even the signs of wear and tear are almost flawless, and Luo'an's refined signature technique shines like a starlight. How could it be? How? The young man suddenly choked up his words. The surging emotions in his heart were about to surge out, but suddenly he lost his support. What are you hiding, young man? Let me ask you again. Luo'an's ancient books are naturally priceless, but that's not enough to prove your potential. Why do you want to be a headhunter? How can you be a headhunter? Do you want to persuade me? Do you want to get out of here alive? Or do you want to be a scammer and die with Mare on the edge of judgment? Speak up. Provide more evidence. Where does your qualifications as a headhunter come from? Where does your confidence come from? Rick roared fiercely. The mottled white light swayed and uneasy under this sharp questioning. The majesty that belongs exclusively to the strong is now so overwhelming that the young man cannot breathe. I can't bear it anymore. I can't bear anything anymore. Those hatred, those contempt, those pain, those exploitation and betrayal. The youth doesn't want to bear those things anymore. He also has a heroic dream. He also wants to become the immortal name on the palace monument. How can he be buried here? I can't bear it anymore. Everything has reached its limit. Disappointment, unwillingness, and overflowing emotions make the heart roll up like a raging sea, creating a huge chain. He no longer hesitated. Suddenly, he forgot his original intention and obsession. He whispered out the person's name, then set aside Mare's shocked gaze and slowly lifted his head to look directly at the angry Rick. Samuel Warhammer. That was the first hero I met. He saw the soul-piercing shock in Rick's eyes. And what gathers deeper, there are also continuous ones, disappointment. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. True Appearance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 True Appearance. The Warhammer family, Warhammer. The hammer that once carried countless honors. The most loyal and reliable courtiers of the royal family, followers of heroes, and noble souls. The most outstanding representative among minstrels, Murad Warhammer. He once compiled his legendary adventure experiences into a book, printed and sold them to the world, inspiring and guiding countless souls who also admired heroes, directly leading to the rise of the headhunting profession. If it weren't for him, many legends would be impossible to verify, and many heroes would hide their names in the vast world where they can no longer be found. If possible, the Warhammer family could have existed for eternity. But unfortunately, a rebellious and unruly descendant emerged. He refused to listen to others' advice and persisted in practicing magic, even completely forgetting his ancestral teachings and choosing to leave alone. He unilaterally declared a break with his family. The hereditary glory of the Warhammer family, and from that day on, he began to fall. The kingdom imposed strict restrictions on the reproductive rights of noble families. Any nobleman can only have one inherited descendant, and as long as he is still alive, he cannot raise a second child. So with the disappearance of Murad's grandson Serial, the hopeful future of the Warhammer family no longer exists. Finally, even Murad disappeared. He left behind a piece of parchment filled with ancient writing that even palace wizards could not understand, and it never appeared again. The kingdom of Luo'an lost a great minstrel. Then came the story of everyone lamenting, where the Warhammer family lost their hereditary aristocratic inheritance and was expelled from the court. Serial's incompetent and cowardly father was demoted to a commoner. This is their story. Since then, people have never heard of anything about that family again. Therefore, this young man cannot lie. No matter what lies he fabricates, he will definitely prioritize using more well-known and legendary heroes as a shield, and never use the rebel who has been missing for too long as a pretext. His conviction is a kind of truth. Rick has already dealt with too many people and gone through too many interrogations. He is well aware of the fear in the hearts of those who lie. The thing that lying people like to do the most is to try to make others believe with something they believe in. The more impeccable a fabricated lie is, the more suspicious it becomes. Many seemingly unbelievable stories are worth pondering and contemplating. So, did this young man really see Serial Warhammer? The wandering mage who travels alone and travels around. But is 60 years really enough for him to cultivate into a hero? Or is it just exaggeration? Do you really see Serial Warhammer? Why do you think he's Serial? This comes from his own confession. Serial told me his story, his understanding of the world, and his hope for me. His physical features. His profession. The old man with a white beard. He leans on a staff that emits colorful light and is inlaid with jadeite aggregate stones. He wears a black windbreaker with a floating tail and is a mage. Why did he find you? When I pleaded with the gatekeeper, I called out Ril's name and mentioned that I had a copy of his ancient book. At that time, Serial appeared. There must be a deep intersection between Serial and Ril. So you were still instigated by Mare to come to Ao'an town. But this unexpectedly triggered your meeting with Serial. No fake. But I still don't understand, young man. If it were really Serial, how did he become what you call a hero in the short 60 years he left? What evidence do you think he is a hero? You probably haven't forgotten a big storm that came not long ago. Heaven and earth split, and the wind swept through the clouds. When thunder and lightning roared together in the world. That was his footsteps transforming into a storm. At that time, the people in the city thought it was a natural disaster, but in reality, it was just a pure gathering of Serial's energy. He possesses terrifying power, Master Rick. I can also attest to this. During my fierce battle with the Flame Lord, the old man easily summoned the Flame Whisperer, a level 10 elemental creation, in front of me. That was an unimaginable source of magic. Mare also spoke slowly. He is still immersed in shock. Serial's story at the time also had a significant impact on him. What kind of belief is unwavering adherence to ideals? But now, as a warhorse, Mare lacks support in his heart, empty like a bottomless black hole. He has also regretted and questioned whether his selfishness is incurable. But the answer is always clear. Often, he only wants to live comfortably. Save the boy. Indeed, he has a selfish heart. That is a commission from within the city. That is a heavy bounty order. The goal is to find a young person for his organization, but the purpose is unknown. Undoubtedly, when he was searching for targets in the wilderness, the boy he saw at first glance was the best target for deception. No matter who he is or what his purpose is. As long as it can be utilized, as long as it can be used to achieve goals. Perhaps, one can still make another profit from the simple gratitude of this young man. It's really a very simple idea. He also did not feel that he had done any harm to the young man. But he didn't know that the young man had already relaxed all his guard against such a seemingly simple and gentle uncle. Therefore, when his intentions are truly exposed, feelings of regret and disappointment are inevitable. At this moment, the young man was coldly looking at Mare, who seemed to be arguing for him. That expression is so unfamiliar now. Oh. Flame Whisperer. If you can successfully summon such a creature, it means that Serial Warhammer has at least reached the level of a great mage. Rick pondered deeply. His eyebrows and eyes are gradually unfolding. That's to say, Mare. While you were leading the youth to the town of Ao'an, you encountered the Flame Lord, a 5th-level elemental creation. Such creatures would appear in the wilderness outside of Luo'an. I won't consider why, but as a mid-level knight, you have more than enough power to deal with them. But you chose to send the youth to Ao'an to pave the way for all your future plans. TSK, I really underestimate you, my friend. It's not what you think. I'm just trying to train that young man. If he wants to become a headhunter, such hardships are inevitable and will benefit him without any harm. And Serial's appearance is the key, isn't it? This is a big event that can shock the royal family of Luo'an. It's also a big event that marks the hero's return. Mare's excited eyes trembled. This news is enough to exchange for a lot of money. There won't be a second intelligence agent besides us who knows about this. Rick, think carefully about the pros and cons. That's all a waste of Luo'an coins. Heavy. Pain. Disappointment. Being morally upright is just a disguise, and the hypocrisy and prioritization of interests hidden within is his main theme. The man in front of me seems to be teaching the boy hysterically. Never trust anyone. No matter what he is doing, approaching you always has a purpose in mind. And this will hover in the life of the youth, unforgettable forever. You have finally exposed your true face, March. Well done. Indeed, this is truly shocking news, as valuable as you said. If it weren't for my strong pressure, this young man probably wouldn't have let go. Now it seems like a great victory. Rick gently stroked his long beard and said with a hoarse voice, smiling like that. His pride is now ferociously evident in his words. With his palms slightly dancing, the ancient book that seemed to be the same as the one in the boy's bag suddenly turned into foam. Young man. I lied to you. The skill book left by Ro'air to you is indeed an unparalleled treasure that is difficult to replicate. I just played a trick, using the thief's exclusive plagiarism and copying methods, and imitating a book with the shadow dust. My intention was just to test your reality, but I didn't expect that you really surprised me. You are still too young. Your perception of this world is only limited to the invasion of the undead, and what is more terrifying than the undead is the human heart, but the constant struggles and calculations between people. It is obvious that you have fallen into my trap and revealed the name of that hero. Unknown boy. You still have a long way to go. You haven't passed the assessment, and the guild cannot recognize you as a headhunter. What? Why? I am the one blessed by Serial, the heir chosen by Serial. Isn't all of this enough for you to trust? Why is it like this? A buzzing sound echoed in their minds, and the continuous calculations from these people were a headache. Ro'air has experienced much more torture than this pressure before, and he bravely persevered. His struggle and hardship has contributed to his perseverance and resilience. If you don't have the courage to face the pressure, how can you ensure that when facing heroes, you can remain calm in the face of their momentum? I should have said so. All my actions and issues have nothing to do with your character. I am just conducting an interview, an ultimate test to glimpse your inner souls. Unfortunately, your performance did not meet the standards. Rick cannot acknowledge your identity, even if Serial approves of you. So what? What will happen to me? What will happen to Mare? The young man smiled helplessly. The blade of judgment will tell you the answer. He was speaking like this when a dark shadow suddenly burst into the hall. Sorry to bother you. Report. The highest level commission. You can't afford to neglect it for a moment. The magical sheepskin scroll slowly floated in the air and was delivered to Rick. The old and simple hands rolled it open. In an instant, his expression became serious. Young man, Mare. Perhaps I can completely forget about the past, as long as you are willing to help me complete this commission. What? What commission? Marl quickly asked. The undead tribe looted food transported to Tiansu province. All the guards transported were killed in action. We suspect that a powerful and mysterious enemy presence is eyeing this transportation. The chief mage of the kingdom, Luo'an, has sent a commission to our town of Ao'an, requesting a thorough investigation into this matter. Because the undead tribe's resting place detected by the magical falcon is not far from here. You need to face that group of monsters directly and find the sinister lurkers. If you can come back alive, I will give you what you want the most. Mare will receive wealth. As a teenager, you will receive a passing qualification and be exempt from capital punishment. Although that does not mean that you have been recognized as a headhunter. It seems that the trial is not over yet. Young man. Rick sneered. He understood that their trip was bound to leave no bones. And if you're lucky enough to survive, then I'll trust you again. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Recruitment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Recruitment. When the cold winter morning air in Ao'an town flooded back into the nasal cavity, a sudden sense of enlightenment arose. Breaking away from such a high-pressure environment, the boys suddenly relaxed and felt a little uncomfortable. Entering Ao'an town, climbing the circular city wall overlooking, being captured by the shadow guard, accepting Rick's questioning, and taking on an epic commission to retrieve a small life. Everything is like a dream, inexplicably elusive and legendary. And the world outside of Roland is indeed much more terrifying than the boy imagined. Not only referring to the undead, but also to humanity itself. Mare beside him was silent. He knew he had shed his disguise, and those generosity and gentlemanly moments before had become his pitiful shame. Therefore, he couldn't even face the young man's eyes. Actually, it's not bad either. The young man comforted himself and said. Actually, everyone is the same. It's just about using each other. Heroes want to use headhunters to gain fame, and headhunters want to win rewards and endless glory through heroes. What's the difference? So I don't blame you, Mare. At least, you have opened up a path for me to move forward. Whether it comes from good intentions or not. With that spare time, why not think carefully about how to resolve this commission? Uncle, don't look gloomy again. I won't take this matter to heart. The top priority is not arguing. It's more about how to survive than those emotional realities. If we can complete Rick's investigation commission, then both you and I have a future to talk about. If we give up on this, perhaps our lives will end in this small town. I know. Young man. I know. But you don't understand how difficult this task is. Trembling into the undead tribe's territory is not much different from sending them to death. Only mercenary groups with more than 20 people have the courage to scout and engage in small-scale hunting near their habitats, let alone delve deep into the hinterland to investigate hidden boss-level monsters. Mare's eyes turned red. If caught by a butcher or a ghoul, having no bones is the best outcome. The most terrifying is the undead wizards, who will personally transform your flesh and blood, distorting you from a human to a flesh ball or something even more terrifying and disgusting. You will suffer 100 times more agony than death if you are not a human or a ghostly creature. I'm thinking, maybe dying on the edge of judgment would be even more painful. But that kind of death has no glory at all. You're just a coward. So what? I'm just trying to avoid those painful things. It's also a choice in itself. I've seen too many people like you who consider themselves noble, and I admire their brightness and greatness. But that doesn't mean I have to learn. Strolling through the market, the malicious eyes around were fixed on the two of them. How to survive is my right, young man. And you have no right to interfere. This statement is truly terrifying and cannot be refuted. Indeed, in such a desperate era, it is impossible for people to be unselfish. Striving to live a better life for oneself, even at the cost of sacrificing others, is a very reasonable behavior. And as the young man has just emerged from the environment protected by the village elders, his instinctive childishness is difficult to understand with these already scheming adventurers. So, I don't understand well either. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is. How dare you? Still alive. A provocation disrupted the young man's thoughts. He fixed his gaze and saw the guard dressed in dark silver armor staring coldly at him. He is the consul of Ao'an town, Ultraman. The profession is a warrior, with a mid-level cultivation level. That is to say, he went to the professional guild to report the affair between Mare and the young man, which directly led to their current desperate situation. Thinking this way, Mare was burning with anger. Originally, his cooperation with the youth would not have caused any adverse consequences. He only needed to hand over the person to the mysterious employer to receive a generous reward. Moreover, all the previous efforts to gain trust and favor were in vain. Such losses cannot be measured in money at all. This young man is a key figure who witnessed Serial's return with his own eyes. If the news is released, he will become the focus. This also means that the potential benefits are infinite. Regret, anger, and many emotions surged into my heart, and I trembled faintly with a big sword on my back. Rick is right. In fact, Mare's ability to deal with the Flame Lord has already been surpassed. In the previous battles, I only deliberately fell into a weak position. In the tests required to advance from beginner to intermediate level, a total of 32 skill levels need to be tested. Weapon Blessing, Slow Healing, Source of Life Protection, Pure White Form, Holy Spirit Blessing, Light Casting Wall, Holy Shield, Purification, Large Group Healing, Guardian Shell, Holy Embodiment, Justice Judgment, Courage Blessing. In addition, there are also combat tests. The test subjects will be placed in the training ground where the undead are raised for slaughter, and a certain number of ghouls need to be killed within the specified time to be considered victorious. Obtaining the courage to remain calm amidst the overwhelming influx of ghouls is also a goal of such tests. But undoubtedly, this is cruel. There have been times when some junior professionals were unable to calm down in the face of terrifying ghouls and frantically tried to call for regulators to escape, but how could professional guilds tolerate cowardice? They were naturally not rescued, and the result was being brutally dismembered. Extremely cruel and terrifying. That's simply human purgatory. But adventurers who are fortunate enough to reach a mid-level position through testing can basically achieve worry-free living. They can enjoy a 20% discount from any store and are also eligible to purchase goods from the Royal Supply and Weapon Depot. As long as they earn enough money through mercenary orders, they can exchange those Luo'an coins for resources that can last for a lifetime. Mare never forgets the surging pride in her heart when the holy light condenses on the big sword and splits out the shining power that shatters the air. He cut more than 50 ghostly creatures into pieces with just one sword. At that moment, he seemed to hear admiration from the arbitrator. The person who masters the assessment results. The former president of the professional guild in Ao'an town was an arbitrator from the capital of Luo'an. The man who was more mysterious and powerful than Rizk, is said to be the forge of the Blade of Judgment. And he, a hero of the same time as Ril, disappeared into the ruins and dust of the second natural disaster. Rick is unable to succeed as president because, in layman's terms, he is not even worthy of lifting shoes for Rizk. If he were still there, the political governor in front of him would be confused and unworthy of such arrogance. The former fighting spirit, now so lethargic, is buried with many unknown memories. I'm confused. If I'm not mistaken, you're the one reporting to Rick, right? Oh, that's not necessarily true. Rick's eyeliner are all over the city. As long as there are shadows, there must be thieves and even assassins. Countless pairs of eyes are staring at you, Mal, and teenagers. The hazy and cold voice seemed to be revealing. A group of patrolling soldiers gathered around him, staring at them indifferently. I don't know why Rick let you out. Logically, you should have died by the edge of the judgment. After all, no one would believe a stranger boy who claims to want to become a headhunter. However, your survival is considered a bit of a skill for you. Freedom comes with a price, and it must be exchanged for something more valuable. I think Rick has already exchanged something from you, or arranged some hidden adventures for you. Headhunter, perhaps you know something, right? Don't be provoked by him, little one. You should, yes. I do know something. And I'm about to release this shocking news. I need help. The boy interrupted Mare's advice, but spoke loudly like this. Many adventurers gathered around them at this moment. In their eyes, there were many emotions filled with anticipation, disdain, helplessness, or indifference, gathered around the young man who seemed to have hidden something fierce in his belly. Are you crazy? You probably don't want to say everything, do you? In that case. Then it's not worth any money. I need to form an exploration team. The destination, mission objectives, and rewards will be kept confidential. Applicants are invited to come to my side, and I will evaluate your abilities one by one and recruit them into the military. Are you joking? Who do you think you are and want to be the leader of the adventure team? A mage holding a staff sneered. He is very dissatisfied with the arrogance of the youth. Who am I? Please note. I am the last headhunter in this world. And I will follow the hero again. End of this chapter.